Hey, welcome back.
Welcome back.
Another episode of On Occasion with Chris and Canaan.
I'm Chris Jones of Sewing Clover Photography.
I'm Canaan with Details Nashville, and we're back with another episode.
Yeah. What do you want to talk about
We're going to
today?
jump right in. I have the topic today, right? And we're going to talk about networking.
And the reason Canaan's in charge is because Canaan really is kind of king of networking, at least in Nashville. And I don't think I'm great at networking.
And in Indianapolis, Indiana.
Oh, yeah. A lot of people really know your name in Indianapolis.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't know what happened, but I think I tried like selling meth there once, and then my network just really expanded quickly.
And then you got into weddings.
And then I got into weddings.
Pretty natural progression.
Natural progression, less money overall. Yeah.
Which one?
Weddings.
Oh, okay.
There's less money in weddings than in meth.
Yeah. Maybe if you were out in like the West Coast, Oregon.
I'd be selling mushrooms at that point.
I hitchhiked once across America.
Ooh.
Yeah.
No, you did. Like all the way across America?
Yeah, I bought a one-way ticket from Atlanta to Seattle.
On a train?
No, on an airplane.
Oh.
And then I hitchiked back.
Oh, and then you hitchhiked back. Okay,
but,
I was wondering where the hitchhiking part came in.
Yeah, and I hitchhiked back for fun. And my favorite ride was I caught a ride out of across the Cascades coming out of Portland. And this guy picked me up. And my whole plan with hitchhiking was I was going to like feel people out before I got in the car. Yeah. I never did that. I just got in the car. Anyway, so I'm getting this guy's car and I just see empty.
And you're still here today.
Yeah, I see empty beer cans all over the like passenger side. Like I have to clear them to put my feet in.
Yeah. And
I get in the car. He's like, "You cool if I've been drinking?" I'm like, "I guess." And he's like, "I'm also on meth." And I was like, "Cool." And then we end up. He's like, "You hungry?" He's like, "Sure." So we go through this McDonald's drive-through, and he's like smoking a cigarette. And he's like, "You want one?" I've never smoked a cigarette in my life.
How old were you?
22.
Okay, fair.
But he's like, "You want a cigarette?" I was like, "Yes." I was like, "Sure." So I'm like smoking my first cigarette.
How many firsts were on this trip?
A few, but we don't have time. Anyway, So we're in the McDonald's drive-thru. We order whatever. We pull up, and this woman opens the window, and he just goes, "F you," and he just spits on her. He's like, and he looks at me and he goes, "She deserved it." And I was like, and I still didn't get out of the car. We just kept going. I don't know when I got out, man, but it was a ride.
Oh my God, dude.
So this is my network. I got his name written down in a book one day if I need to call him back.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
Okay.
She deserved it, and I still stayed in the car.
Yeah.
How many miles did you travel with him?
Well, not as many with him. My longest ride was with a Bulgarian truck driver.
Well, you got a lot of Bulgarians in your life.
Well, episode 3 of this, we had Bulgarian. Not in my life. And then this guy was in my life. His name was Simeon. And he, every like 20 miles, he'd want to show me how he could juggle. I'm serious. He just pulled the big rig over.
No, stop. All right, hold on. You did not tell me he's in a big rig.
Yeah, we're in a trucker.
There's a guy who's a trucker, a Bulgarian trucker.
I slept in his bunk bed. I slept on the top bunk.
Oh my God.
I woke up in the morning and we're just driving down the road. And I'm just swaying in the bunk. He was so kind to me.
Oh my God. Oh no.
We went to Walmart.
Oh Jesus.
Everyone thinks you're poor when you're hitchhiking.
Oh,
So he went to Walmart and he bought me some mozzarella cheese and it's like gallon jar of sauerkraut. So I'm just eating sauerkraut. Going down the road. Okay.
That sounds terrible. Oh my God.
I miss him, to be honest.
He sounds fantastic, but a whole goddamn jar of sauerkraut. Oh my God. In a truck. You're trapped in a truck.
Yeah. What 1,200 miles with that guy?
Oh my God. Whew. Okay.
He got me out of a bad spot, to be honest.
Man, you.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm going to get it networking after that story.
Well, that's my network.
Yeah.
I don't know how to network in weddings. Why don't you talk about networking in the industry?
Oh, man. All right. Well, I've hitchhiked too. But I didn't have anybody.
I didn't know that.
I didn't have a Simeon. Well, all right. So, I backpacked the East Coast with my brother and a couple friends when I was 14. And we came out of we did like the last 100 miles of the AT. And we did like Vermont and New York.
What's it called? The 100 miles of wilderness or something?
Yeah. So anyway, we had like hiked out of that, and we had to hitchhike back to get our van. And my brother ended up leaving me at the hostel with one other guy. The other guy we were with fell asleep, and so we were like, "Well, should we hitchhike back?" And we had been like gone like a week and a half. We're like, "Should we hitchhike back and get our car so that when it's there?" Because my brother had just left and gone up to a brewery with some hippies. And I mean,
which brother is this?
one of the Cameron, like
Okay.
one of the guys' names was like Voice Within Wind, and he had this big like
That's
wolf
his trail,
husky
like
mix.
his trail name.
Yeah, his trail name. And he had this like kilt, and he told this story about because we had taken some camera. We hadn't taken cameras. We had talked we had met him on the trail, hiked with him for a while. And we were talking about photography, and he goes, "Oh yeah, I've taken photos." We're like, "Oh cool. Well, tell us about it." He goes, "Well, I was on this mountain in the Tetons, and this family was up there with me, and I had my dog, and I was wearing my kilt, and they asked me to take a family photo, so I took a family photo. But right when I snapped the photo, my kilt blew up." And he goes, "I don't wear any underwear." He goes, "I haven't worn underwear in like 20 years." And we're like, "Oh, okay." And we had seen his junk enough on the trip because it's a very small kilt.
What year was this?
I was 14. I don't know what year this was.
Because I know somebody that hiked the Appalachian Trail in a kilt. But
Was his name Voice Within Wind?
I don't know. That wasn't his real name.
Oh, I don't know.
Okay, keep going.
So he goes, "Yeah, right when I snapped the photo, the wind kicked up and blew my kilt up." And he goes, "The whole family, like it was like back before digital, so it was like still film." He goes, "They sent me the photo later because they had like exchanged contact already." And they sent the photo, and the whole family's face was like, and like the mom's like reaching to cover the daughter's eyes, and it's like because the wind had blown up. And so he goes, he was just standing on this top of this mountain with his kilt like up to his chest, like full Marilyn Monroe situation.
I'll be honest, I would love to live like that.
Fantastic.
With just a kilt, no underwear.
Kilt, no underwear.
Did he have a goat? The guy who hiked the trail with a goat.
No, it was but it was a wolf husky mix.
Okay.
Like part wolf, part husky, something like that. Wild looking dog, real cool. But yeah, that was at 14. That was I think I saw. He really didn't wear underwear. I'll put it that way. And it was not a kilt that like. It was more of like a Catholic schoolgirl skirt, like if he
wanted it.
Yeah,
so he was kind of an exhibitionist.
I don't know if he was right. I was just gonna say like in hindsight he may have been a bit of an exhibitionist.
The box fan blowing up. There was no wind.
Yeah, like he had a little right. He had like one of those little USB charged fans, and he would just. I'm kidding. He didn't do that, but that would have been really funny if he did.
I went the wrong way with that.
He's just Marilyn Monroe in the situation.
Okay, so networking. Why don't you tell us about it?
So the reason this topic came up was because I read this article by Morning Brew that was talking about how Gen Zers don't believe in networking, like in-person networking specifically. They don't want to go to events. They don't want to meet people face-to-face for the first time. Like they want their first interaction, ideally in the workplace, to be online.
I wonder if it's a similar. I have insecurities. That's why I don't like networking.
Talk about that for a second.
Well, I like friends. I like making friends, but for some reason I don't know how to be my real self when I go to a networking event where it's like other vendors and people are hanging out, and like the whole purpose is to get to know other vendors to see if you can help each other. I think that's the purpose.
I think so.
But I always feel like if I start talking to somebody, they're going to be like, "Oh, this guy's trying to sell himself." And so then I don't know how to be like my real self. That's just like, how you doing?
Well,
What's your life about?
I think that is like the curse.
So then I get all in my head and stuff
of the creative. You know what I mean? Like I know so many photographers and videographers who are like, they don't want to. Well, we talked about this right off camera before this. Like they want like, I'm a creative. I create beautiful things. I want my work to speak for itself and people to hire me for my work. I don't want to have to go out and sell myself. Like I don't want to have to go out and be like, "Hey, I do this. This is what this looks like. I want to be hired. So I'm trying to build relationships."
Yeah, I'm like 50-50. I don't mind going out. It's just I just get so in my head, So that I'm like, well, if you like my work, can you just
hire me based on my work?
Find it and then.
Which in theory is like, I totally get that. Like, but I think that's like the curse of creatives where like I didn't get into this to try and sell myself.
Right.
I got into this because I love this art form and I want people to appreciate it, but I also want to like make a living at what I love. And so then there's like this juxtaposition of like, it feels inauthentic, I think, for some folks to be like, I don't want to do this because it feels icky.
Yeah. Whereas
try and sell myself.
Tons of wedding planners throughout Nashville, tons of caterers, florists, like venue managers.
Yeah.
From like wedding venues to hotel venues, so. Yeah.
Like I would say I have I can be pretty, I feel like I can be pretty confident here. Like I have a wide network.
Yeah. We go somewhere together. If we go to an event together, even if we're not working, if we're just going to, and then somebody else randomly shows up, like, You always know someone.
Yeah, I'm
know?
probably handing out 50 to 60 hugs when I go out.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'm
That
like,
was funny.
yeah, like, yeah, I don't know. I love people. I think for me, like one of the things that makes this industry so great, especially in Nashville, I feel like is, and we've talked about this before, is like Nashville is such a, at least at this point, still such a city of relationships, at least in the wedding and event industry, that it's like, it really is like who you know, who do you have relationships with,
Right.
who are you friends with, like who have you built that rapport with, and I feel like I've accomplished that for sure.
Oh, for sure.
And at least in Nashville. But I also have like, we never really, I mean, I started networking right away.
Well, and I think part of it for you is a lot of the people that you know in your network started in the industry similar time that you started.
That's fair. That's true.
So you kind of came up together. Whereas when I was in Atlanta, I did have a handful of people. We kind of came up together, florists or the planners, and we did work together a lot. But now that I'm not in Atlanta, and some of them aren't in Atlanta, they've moved on too.
Yeah. Well, that's like an interesting thing too, is like, well, I think one of the reasons networking is so important is like, it does seem to be the industry. People move around a lot. Like I know folks who have changed jobs like a dozen times in the time that I've known them, which for like some of them, it's like a change in a year. Like every year they're making a change, but they stay within the same industry. So they're still within that network. So like one of the things like we've benefited from is like building a relationship with certain folks, and then they take you with you to their next spot where they're like,
right.
You are my person for photography or whatever it is. And it's like any job I go to next, if I have a need for it, you're who I'm reaching out to.
Yeah. And I've noticed, especially, well, definitely in weddings, but also corporate, like I've shot for details in like Texas and quite a few places, Florida, been flown around by people that you've known who started in Nashville with their business.
And then moved on. Yeah. Which is like, I think like one of the benefits and the gifts of like networking and, like all of this, like I said, goes back to that article where I was like, GenZers are not networking. They're like, which then begs the question of like, how are they getting gigs? Like, how are they getting work at that point? Are they just being found online? Are they just being like,
I don't know.
Is it just the Google algorithm?
And
or
are we
Instagram?
talking specifically about just creatives in general or are we talking about photographers?
Well, I think for us specifically, wedding photographers or event photographers, anyone working in the
I don't know any
industry.
wedding photographers currently. Do you?
Well, we looked up the age. On the
most
old
26
right? Is at the
oldest
top, right? For GenZers, and then all the way down to like I guess 11, which seems like a pretty wide thing. But yeah, so like I'm trying to think of the photographers I know within that age range. I don't know a lot, and so it's like hard to say. I will say I don't see them at events. I don't see them networking. So that makes me be like, how are they getting work? Because for detail specifically, I don't know what your marketing situation has looked like, but like networking has been our marketing. Like we've never had an established budget for marketing, for like ad sales or paying to be on different platforms or whatever it is. Like
when I first started, I did really well on the Knot and
really, you did well on the Knot.
Well, my budget was cheaper. Okay, and like a lot of people looking on the Knot and Wedding Wire are. Those brides are looking to spend $3,000 or less. Okay. And so, can I tell a funny story about the Knot?
Absolutely. Oh yeah. Oh, have you already told the story? Though?
I don't think so.
Tell it again. Anyway, even if you have.
Well, yeah. My idea of networking or marketing is, at one point I bought 16 URLs. Yeah. Like the Nashville or the notnashville.com or the notatlanta.com, whatever. And I just linked them all, forwarded them to sewingclover.com. Anyways, maybe I did. I don't know if I told the story.
I'll make it. It's good.
Bridge.
It's a solid story.
Anyways, all I know is at one point I got a letter in the mail saying the Knot was going to sue me for $1.6 million.
Solid number too.
$100,000 per URL that I had purchased.
Get you out of a couple jams.
It would have got me out of a few jams. Anyways, so this lawyer calls me from New York one day, working for the EXO group, and she's talking about how they're going to sue me if I don't take the URLs down. And I feel like I did tell a story. The point of this story is I felt really excited that a 20-something-year-old woman in New York City knew Sewing Clover photography.
Right, in Atlanta. And you were just started out.
Well, in New York. But I was in That's
what I'm saying. Then. She's in New York, but she knew about you, old you in
That
Atlanta.
was my networking. Yeah.
Which is like, to be fair, solid move.
Yeah.
Buying those URLs.
Yeah.
If it had worked out.
Right. So... But anyways, I did a lot of weddings off them. But at some point, the budget for those brides they're not able to hire details, or so in Clover.
Right.
So then it really does become more about relationships, unless you've got great SEO, I guess. Or,
which Details has as well. Like Details SEO is
it's pretty good.
Is really good. Yeah. It's like
you got that one blog post about good engagement places around, or good places to have
engagement. Yeah, which still ranks on top when you research for Nashville. I think like with networking, the benefit in the in-person stuff, like for example, like in Nashville, two of the bigger groups are like ILEA, which is International Live Events Association, and then our good friend Shannon Stewart, who started a group called Heels and Handshakes, which is much more like women in business focused, but they I think they call them Allies and Bow Ties.
Yeah, Bow Ties.
Which
like
allies. When we post this, Shannon, you can correct me if it's not Allies and Bow Ties, but I think it's Allies and Bow Ties, which is like they allow men now to be a part of the group. But like within that, it's like we get so much work just from our friends within those groups that, I mean, we book out for the year just from those two things.
Right.
And then on top of that, like you have just maintaining the relationships of people we've known over the years in the industry. And like having a strategy, like one of the things we do is like every quarter now we just send everybody a bump email that's like reaching back out to people who've worked with in the past.
Staying current.
And just being like, hey, just reaching back out, wanted to say hi, haven't talked in a while, working on that last event was great with you, whatever it was. And then just like being at the front of people's minds. Right. So like, one of the things I think that happens is, at least that we've experienced, is if you're not, like things move so fast in this industry that it's like, if you're not around, if you're out of sight, you're out of mind.
Which, actually, just yesterday, I reached out to the new event coordinator at the Hermitage Golf Course. Because, I was friends with the one before that left a few months ago.
Yeah, and she moved on.
So I reached out on Instagram, and I was like, hey, could my team and I bring you lunch?
Yeah.
And she was like, sure. So she responded last night, so I don't know if you're available next week.
But we should. I'll make myself available for that.
Yeah, we'll take lunch with her.
But like that type of stuff is real. Like having these friendships, having these relationships within the industry, it matters. Like we get most of our work from referrals.
So how do you develop the friendships in a way that feels genuine, so that these other
That's a good question.
planners and venue managers don't feel like, well, he's just using me for my resources.
For business. Like he's just trying to get business.
Correct.
I think like part of what happens there is, at least for me, I genuinely care about the people that I've built these relationships with. Like, I mean, I can name drop a ton of people.
I know you could.
But like, I'm genuinely invested in their life. Like I've helped people move in when they've had like emergencies and they're like had to change houses because of like flooding or whatever it is. Or, like we have friends, like I think about like, one of our favorite people is old Bo, who used, he's a Nashville legend.
Yeah.
Bo Jennings. And he's out in Maine now. But like, I still talk to him on a regular basis on Instagram, at least. And he's like still all the way out in Maine, still in our corner, still backing us, like still sending people our way when people reach out to him, all the way from Maine. Like we're like, we've gotten people reach out to us and inquire for work, being like, hey, I'm friends with Bo. He recommended you guys. I was just talking about this need I have coming up for a video or photo. And we're just like, dang, dude. Like I haven't seen him in a few years because he lives out in, I don't know what island he's on, but he's like helping run a series of restaurants out there now. But just the fact that like that relationship still continues to give. But like, I genuinely care about Bo. I love seeing his success in life, and I love seeing him grow and like maintaining a genuine friendship, not just like, hey, you are just a means to an end in terms of income.
Well, what would you say to the artist out there, photographer or not, that could be somebody else in the industry, but let's say they don't have that network right now, but they're good at what they do. They're good at their craft, whether that's florist, catering, photography, videography. They don't have the network, but they're artists, like their quality work. What do they do? Like, what's their first step in networking?
Like, I think if obviously assuming if this person like wants to start breaking into like building these relationships, I think the first thing is like, don't get overwhelmed with this idea that you have to have a wide network. Like I think about you with,
that's how I am.
Is it Three Little Birds?
Yeah.
Like how many weddings have you gotten from her?
I don't know, maybe 20 or 25, 30 weddings over the past 7 or 8 years.
You know what I mean? Like from one planner
Yeah.
that you have a solid relationship with, who she trusts you enough to give you that much work to represent her as a
Right.
planner with your work. That's crazy. You know what I mean? So like that would be my first advice is like if you already have like some
Yeah, like if you've worked with somebody already, just
right,
like,
continue to nurture that.
Right.
You know, like figure out like obviously this is business still. You know, while you're still developing those relationships, in the end it's like still business. Like you're not these people's like you're not a godparent to their children. You know, you're like, this is a business relationship, but you can still have an authentic, genuine relationship with these folks. And so like nurturing that. So being like, for you, I think that's a great example. Like you don't feel great at networking, but you are really great at building certain relationships. And those I feel like have paid off in dividends.
Yeah, for sure. Christina Logan. I feel
like we're Christina Logan here in Nashville.
We're real friends and
right. And like Rachel, like we're on a group feed with Rachel not Rachel Eston now, and then Christina Logan, you and me. And I mean, like we get together a few times a year just to have dinner and talk and hang out and have fun. And we don't even talk about work. We talk about life. We talk about kids. We talk about growth, like whatever. So that's the type of thing I would encourage folks to do is be like, find those few people
I feel inspired right now.
That you're already nurturing that relationship with. You're like, whether it's a florist or a planner or whoever, especially if you're a photographer or videographer, and build that. See how you can be a benefit. I think that's like a big key there is I think people will sometimes approach networking as like this thing where they're looking to get, whereas I've always approached it with the mindset of like, how can I be of a benefit?
Yeah.
And then out of that being a benefit, I'm then receiving the gift of like, I'm getting work because I've proven, you know, I'm trustworthy. My work is quality. I'm going to represent them well. I'm going to aid in building their reputation and their portfolio, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I'm aiding them in their growth.
What do you think about, so for me, it's just a limited time, you know, at this point in life, being married, a kid.
You're a dad.
Everyone has limited time. And so for me, I think I always prioritize what's upstream. And so as a photographer, the people who are upstream for me are just venues and planners, you know, because if I'm a bride, if I'm engaged as a bride, first thing I'm doing is finding a venue. And then I'm going to have a planner, and then photography.
Yeah.
Like that's probably third on the list. And so what do you think about, like, are you going to try to like build some friendships with people who are like really talented at stationery?
As a photographer?
Yeah.
Not in a means to get work. No.
Yeah.
But like, you know, if that
conversation happens,
it would be a natural, it would just be like, I see this person at networking events. I see this person at other weddings, whatever it is. And we have that relationship, but I'm not looking to like, there's no natural correlation there. Like at least I don't think so. I don't think most brides are like going to their calligrapher or the person they're buying custom stationery from and being like, hey, you know any photographers?
Right.
Like calligraphers, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think people are coming to you for photographers.
But if you want to refer us them.
But
wow, we'll help you out. We'll photograph your
get us out of a couple jams. You know what I'm saying? But like with that, it's like, you know, you can be strategic too. If you're like looking to be like, how can I forward thinking, be like, who are relationships I can build authentically? And it's also going to be mutually beneficial for our businesses to have this type of relationship together. Can
I share something about marketing? And I think that it's similar, at least it's about getting business, you know. My friend Carla Gates, she's really talented and she's very high in weddings at this point. And I think when she first started, she didn't have many real weddings on her website at all. It kind of goes along the philosophy of like, what you show is what you get, you know, what you put out is what you get.
Okay.
And so she just networked, man. She just found all these vendors she really wanted to work with, even across state lines.
Yeah.
Like high-end venues, and she would organize, I think she had to put her own money into these resources and organize these really high-end style shoots. And then that's what she put on her website, you know?
Yeah.
And I just never had the energy or the desire to do that.
Yeah.
But because she was willing to invest the time and energy to just put out really high quality content from the beginning, she's always had really high quality weddings.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
you know, like all her weddings are Martha Stewart worthy. And
for sure.
And so I think that's a great way to do things.
And I think there's like,
and then she has all that.
I like that example because, it doesn't limit folks to being like, oh, I just have to go to a networking event.
Right.
It's like, no, you can build a network.
Moment,
you can get creative with how you're producing these things. And I think like people who produce these really good style shoots, that's a way to make connections, especially for people who are just breaking into the industry.
Right.
It's a great way to build your portfolio. I know there's like a lot of people get real pissed off when people post style shoot photos, but like pose. I guess like there's a thing where people pose it off as a real wedding. Which I get. Like it's like that's not a real wedding.
Yeah,
That's
I've done it. I don't know.
Yeah,
you know? And if somebody was to ask, I'd be like, yeah, it was a style shoot.
I don't think you have to be so on the face to be like in big bold letters like this was a style shoot, not a real wedding.
Yeah.
I don't think it matters that much. Apparently, some people get butthurt over it because they feel like it's inauthentic. I don't really care if a person's work is great, a person's work is great.
Exactly.
I think like even with your friend who was just like, I'm going to pump out really fantastic curated content. They're still showing what they're able to capture.
She's able to pull
and
off, right?
also like if she's able to like logistically pull that off with other vendors and create that type of content, that's fantastic. I think that speaks to her professionalism and business
there's also
savvy.
the lack of like, what if she's really talented, but she like the weddings she's getting booked for are like, some venues are easier to photograph than others, you know? And so, like if you're in a venue where it's like, it's not easy to photograph or, your florist is just bringing out like baby's breath or something. It's like, you're limited. And so she was able to like put the best of her best, like up front.
Yeah. Which I think like that's another thing too, where folks are like, if folks are trying to build their content, build their network, build their portfolio, this is like a segue. We're kind of segueing into style shoots, but like, that's a fantastic way to do that. Because like to your point, when you're just starting out, you're not getting, at least not typically getting great quality weddings in terms of the aesthetic.
Right.
Like you're getting the baby's breath. You're getting
mason jars,
shabby chic and mason jars. And, well, that's probably like 10 years ago. Yeah. But the point is like more DIY weddings, which when that happens...
Well, then you're the planner is what happens.
You're the planners. Yeah, that's what happens. But like, you're not, what you're capturing is not going to be mind blowing.
Right.
Whereas like, if you can get into a fantastically done styled shoot, your content is going to be really amplified, which is a great selling point.
Right.
Because it's showing what you can do if you get a wedding that has that quality of aesthetic.
Right.
Which matters a lot. Like, because there are people who can walk into a really great curated style shoot and still suck. So like I've seen people who are like, how did you F this up? Because you really
that's pretty
did.
Brutal because all these other vendors volunteer their time and the photographer doesn't come through.
Right. Yeah, that sucks.
What else? You got anything else? Any other tips for networking before we wrap up?
We jumped around. Let me just
don't leave the people without.
I'm not going to leave them without anything. I think I want to go back to I want to emphasize, just because I feel like with creatives, there is this thing of like feeling inauthentic or feeling like you're selling something or feeling like you don't, even like, I don't know, so many of us are introverted. Like social situations are not like the strong suit or something we really like. It's so draining. It's like we want to put as little energy there as possible because it taxes us so much. So like with that, I would want to emphasize that small network. Like if you can find if like as a creative, you can find your three little birds planner and be like, I have this relationship with this planner where there's this mutual trust enough and this proven rapport enough that they're going to, anytime they get the opportunity, they're going to send me this work because they know I'll deliver. Well, that's worth more than at that point than wasting time going to a bunch of different random events for networking or trying to like expand a broad network. Like if you can narrow it down to like a handful of half a dozen people within the industry, within your city that you're like, these are my people. We refer each other all the time.
Yeah. And that's a few years ago. I don't think I ever pursued it, but I was like, could I get like a hive, I don't know if that's the right word, but like, I was like, could I have like almost like a bubble? Like here's the vendors. We love working together.
Right.
So we're all just going to refer each other. And it's like, if you want to hire in Clover, these are people that I strongly recommend you hire with,
Yeah.
But
I think that's for a lot of people always the goal. Practically, that doesn't always work just because, you can't control your clientele and who they are already bringing with them in terms of vendors.
There's certain bands I want there, like certain bands really hit. And I'm like, if that band's not
bands
there,
and DJs are big for a reception.
Your
it's like, I feel that way sometimes where it's like a certain someone will be like, who you got for this? And they're like, oh.
With some real advice stuff. If you're going to have a DJ, you should like find some recordings of their reception work on YouTube or something. Because some DJs, they can't use a microphone. It's so awkward. Yeah,
like if you're gonna have your DJ MC as well as do the music, like vet them. Like get some examples first, because
introductions with like the wrong bride and groom's names.
We've seen some nightmares of MCs. Now the other thing I was gonna say is like utilizing your your vendors in terms of like when a client comes to you being like, hey, do you have your photographer?
Yeah.
Do you have your DJ?
Right.
Do you
I do
have
try
your
to remember
florist?
that when I'm talking to
like
couples.
Being intentional about that. Man. Oh, I'm going to give a shout out because, man, he is a freaking rock star at this.
I know you're going to say Josh Ray.
Yeah, Josh Ray, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he's a freaking stud when it comes to recommending people.
Mm-hmm.
We've gotten so much work just because he's like, oh, do you need a photographer? Do you need a videographer? And the person's like, oh, actually, we're still looking. And he's like, and we don't book everybody, but just like the fact that like so often I'm getting an inquiry and it's like, hey, Josh Ray recommended you. Hey, Josh Ray wanted us to connect. Hey, Josh Ray sent me your way. I'm like, damn, dude. Like, and he does this for everybody. Like, he does this for florists. He does this for planners, DMCs. Like, he really, or even like, like if it's like a DJ, they're like, hey, you're out of our budget, blah, blah, blah. He's like, that's great. Let me recommend either an associate package or this is someone who's more within your range. Check them out. I recommend them. Like, that's such a solid place to put yourself in the industry to be like, I'm going to opt in on the side of collaboration and, recommending and lifting people up in the business.
Looking for referrals, but also being like, I have the ability to give referrals.
Right. Which like in some vendors are in a place to recommend more. Like we're usually one of the last people to get booked. I feel like photographers.
Really? No.
You don't think so?
Well, I mean
like a planner's first. Go for it. Yeah. Say your thing.
Well, I mean, I think we have the ability sometimes to refer planners. Never
very often,
but really?
I don't feel like. I feel like when we get people, it's usually a planner coming to us with.
Oh, okay. I would say 50-50. I have the time to recommend planners, but then everyone else, bands, florists.
Yeah,
DJs,
I imagine it's different for everybody. Yeah. But like, I do think some vendors are like set up earlier on, like they're booked first, and so then they have a chance to recommend people more. But I think like bringing your I guess frienders, we'll just call them frienders. They're bringing your frienders with you wherever you go in terms of like client inquiries is so advantageous. Like it helps build up those relationships. So like we've done things where like even if there's folks we don't have a strong relationship with, but we want to, and we have a chance to like recommend them to a client we're working with so that we're creating an opportunity to work with them and build that relationship, we do it.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
And it's like, it's a way to like support them, but also build that relationship with them.
Or we crash events that are supposed to be only for wedding planners.
Yeah, that happens.
We don't know that, and then we're like the only two photographers in a room of like 40 women who are planning weddings.
Yeah, we went to this really nice hotel, and it was like a 5-course luncheon. Only photographers there. Turns out it's only supposed to be for planners.
But we were invited by a planner. We didn't know.
Yeah, but we were invited. We were well received.
Yeah.
And I had a great time.
Really good time.
It was a really great networking event.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Do you feel like at this point you've established yourself in Nashville enough, like in terms of like vendors? I feel like you get quite a bit of work from like specific people that it's like transitioned, which I know like when you first moved from Atlanta, because I feel like this is something people talk about where like I moved cities. I moved from New York to Chicago. I moved from Missouri, St. Louis to Nashville, whatever it is. And then starting in a new city, you were getting so many inquiries still in Atlanta when you first moved here that you were traveling back.
I was in Atlanta probably between family and weddings. I was in Atlanta. Yeah. Probably 20 times a year.
Right. Cause your established network was there.
Yeah.
So
I think it's transitioned pretty well. I think if this season of my career, I'm not trying to be a destination wedding photographer. I would love shooting local, waking up and going to bed in the same place.
Yeah.
So it's pretty well transitioned. I mean, I'm traveling, we're going to Hilton Head in a month for a wedding. Yep. But for the most part, I think it's worked out really well. And that has come through trying to build friendships and serve people.
Do you think like for you, because I know you're not someone who wants to do or even feels like they're really, good at doing the big networking events. What have you done over time to create those relationships, like with the Christina Logans and others? Like what has been your move? Is it just been pretty natural and organic, or have you felt like it's been an intentional endeavor?
I think so. I don't even know how Christina and I met. I don't know if it was working a wedding or an event, but I think so. I think once if I can just feel comfortable with somebody, then I can keep a conversation going, through texts or whatever. And, if I hear that they're, like back in Kelly Mint Springs Farms, I remember talking to them a year and a half ago at some venue, and they were just talking about how they were trying to find ways to lighten the space, and I was like, well, if you want, I'll come down and check out the venue. I'd shot there a couple times, but I was like, I'll come down and like give you ideas for how I think it would lighten up the space, in regards to photographs. And I think maybe even just being willing to help and consider them friends has been helpful, so.
Nice.
Yeah. But ultimately, I do not think I'm a good networker. I don't think that is the case. But it's okay.
How are you defining that? Like, are you defining it in terms of like the ideas?
Okay. I don't have quantity. That's for sure. I don't have quantity. We go to events all the time together, and I'm like, God, what's her name? And I'm like on Google or like nationalweddingplanners.com. Or, I'm like looking up faces. And okay. Because I don't know. I haven't had enough rapport to remember people's
everybody's
names,
doing.
Which I guess they probably don't remember my name either because I'm just another guy.
That's fair.
Anyways,
I think like if I were to sum it up though, like regardless of whether you feel like you're a good networker or it's something that you feel comfortable doing or you're like introverted or extrovert or whatever it is, approaching networking in terms of like how can I be of a benefit to the people I want to build relationships with is the way to do it. Like definitely going in with a mindset of service to the other versus going into it on thinking I want to receive. Yeah, definitely. Like I remember, I can talk about this person. I don't think this person's really around anymore in the industry. I feel like I'm not liked by many people. But there was one individual who like really did not like me like at all. And was the type of person, this is a good example of like how not to network. Like this person would show up to stuff and basically like demand work because this person wasn't getting a lot of work, was having a hard time breaking into things. It was a little just not great on the social networking side of things. And really had like a troublesome reputation because he came in and just almost like tried to bully people into giving him work. And so I look at it as like this perfect example of like, this is how not to do this. Like you came in basically demanding people give you work because you didn't have any and people had more than enough. And so you were just like, you need to give me this. And that's not how it works. Weird. Like, especially if like in ways of like
preschooler mentality.
It's wild. It was wild. And there's like to be like, if your work is great and I know I can recommend you in good confidence and know that you're going to represent me well, putting my reputation on the line for putting your name forward, then yeah. But like, if you come in and you're just like, have this wild expectation that people are going to give you business and work with you just because, that's a weird way to engage the situation. So my recommendation is fully like, how can you be of a benefit? Well, even if that's like in certain cases being like, hey, we've never worked together before. Just let me get in there. Let me do something with you to show you the quality of my work, to show you how I can meet your expectations or go beyond your expectations, meet your needs, and show you that I am worthy of your time and your business. And that may be like getting paid less a few times just so that like you're making it so that there's some incentive there financially for that person who's bringing you in. Whatever it is, figuring out how to get creative to be like, I want to work with you. How can we make this work? And how can we build this relationship and make it beneficial? That's like how that would be my recommendation. Like if I were to really break it down,
I came to serve and not to be served.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's a fine way to say it. Yeah, if you want to get biblical on it. Yeah, that'd be my job. That'd be in terms of networking.
Well, you feel good?
Yeah, I feel good. We can wrap it up here, I think, Hey, thanks for joining us. Follow us on all the platforms, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Not in real life.
Not in real life. Don't follow us in real life. That's creepy. I will.
Though we do live 5 doors apart from each other, so
it'd be easy to stalk both of us.
Middle and
you could split the difference. Yeah. You'd be easier to find too. And I have kids and they're pretty feral. I'll have them.
I got a dog.
Burning your tent.
Not doing anything. Anyways,
follow us, subscribe, YouTube, Instagram, anywhere you listen to podcasts. I don't know what I'm doing with my hands.
Hasta la pasta.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.
See ya.